Hey, my beautiful people, it is Tracy, and I always get excited when we have great topics to talk about. So I am going to wait till the darling Betty joins me, and we're going to get right to it for today's topic. Another survivor asks a quotation mark question, which was a great topic. Basically says, as a stroke survivor, do you ever recover? Let me let Betty in, and we'll get right into it. Hey, Betty. Oh, girl, check out that hair. That is cute. Look at you.
Thanks. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good.
Good. Okay, I was going to ask you another question. Okay, we'll get right into it. So for this topic, as I was just letting everybody know, the topic of the question another survivor asked was, as a stroke survivor, do you ever recover? And I would say I was actually tagged on this. It was on Facebook. I was actually tagged on here by some other survivors like, yeah, y'all need to look at Tracy XYZ. So we'll just talk about how I even got involved with the question. And then I had to hit up my girl Betty like, yo, this is an excellent topic that I really want to touch base on. So y'all know I like to talk a lot. I'm going to let Betty start first, and then I'll get into it. But before I even let Betty start, I'm going to give you the definition because I defined it because I wanted to break this up into many parts. Give you the definition of what Webster says to recover is return to a normal state of health, mind, or strength. So find or regain possession of something. So I'm going to get back to that because I really wanted to hone in on that, but I'm going to let Betty go ahead. Then I'll come back.
Okay. So I was looking at it from the perspective of like, do you ever get to 100% again? And, I think there's different aspects in our life that we have to look at. And it's not always just about the physical aspect. It's about your mental strength, your resilience, your ability to overcome something hard in your life that happened to you. So when you start adding those up, you're beyond 100%.
Yeah.
You're beyond what you were before. So whether or not your physical body, maybe you have a deficit, I'm left side hemiplegic. So will that ever be 100%? No, but for me personally, I'm over 100% better than the person I was the day I had my stroke. And we'll talk more about that, but that's my 2 cents on it.
Okay, that's great. So I'm itching because I want to get back to this definition that we have. To return to a normal state of health, mind, or strength. That takes me all the way to what is normal. What is normal? Because that's the same statement I always say. What is perfect? Who says perfect is perfect? Perfect is ugly. Perfect is what you make perfect. Normal. What is your normal state of mind? So for a survivor to say, yes, will we ever recover? Yes, you recover. As Betty said, she's 100% recovered. Plus, because of the simple fact, the growth that she's yearned since. And I would say, and I can play off of that, the growth in the community that I've gained. Yeah. With all the things, and I'm always very transparent about showing y'all, like today it's raining. I say I can say all survivors, but I'm gonna say for myself, y'all already know I talk about this left side. Left want to go crazy when it rains. It's almost like your body. It's almost like your body has arthritis. So y'all know, and I call this hand lefty goes straight bananas in the rain. And when she goes straight bananas because she says, I don't feel like working. Y'all think I sit here and said, hey, I'm not recovered because lefty wants to go crazy. Guess what? I just left the gym. I've been able to do everything that I wanted to do. Nothing is stopping me. So the recovery and the reason nothing is stopping me because of my mindset, my mentality says, hey, I am recovered. Right. I am stronger. I am strength. I am strength physically and mentally. So we got to look at the mindset for one. And then at the same time, I could say that's for survivors in the sense that as a stroke survivor, we go through brain disconnection. So I always talk about the rewiring of our brain and how that is very difficult when we're trying to rewire the function of our brain once we had a brain bleed. So a lot of us are still dealing with trying to rewire and trying to repair our brain cells. So our thought process may not all be the same, but again, we can step back and have some sort of thought process. And I can even tell you to say, look at the day you woke up from your stroke, whether you're in a coma or coma, look at that day to today. There is recovery. As the person that have typed this question, will we ever recover? You are recovered because there could have been a point that you were not able to type or even pronunciate or even figure out your brain cells to make a sentence. So all of these things we have to look at when you say, will I ever recover? And then you can look at the normal man that have never had any, I would say, the brain incident that we had with rewiring the brain cells. They can have an accident or an ailment in their body, and they say, hey, will I ever recover? They can go back to say, you know what? 6 months ago, I looked like this. Thank God I'm able to get up now. So there is recovery. Recovery takes so many different levels. Recovery is different steps. So I want us to look at it as a picture of recovery in a whole. As Betty was saying, whole being, your mind, body, and soul, your thought process, your physical. So the physical is one. A lot of us play, you guys believe in neurogens. A lot of us play the simple fact with the whole thing with, we don't like the physical being of what we're looking at, but if we get past the physical, and that's another thing where I'll go back and say is what is perfect. Physical, you may say to yourself, hey, I don't look good because my hand still twists, my leg still turns, XYZ, but in the natural man, like you can look at Betty and be like, you had a stroke, what? And Betty's went through it, and I'll let her tell you, Betty's went through 2, 3 multiple brain surgeries. But the simple fact is, her whole being, she's healed, she's recovered, so that she's not looking at the physical to say, you can. If I didn't tell my story and say, hey, I'm a stroke survivor, people would not be able to say, oh my gosh, you. So and it's funny because when I say it to people that don't know me, it's actually kind of fascinating because I find them, their eyes begin to set on different areas, and they're watching.
They're trying to find it.
They're watching everything that I do. Like, I mean, it'll be a person that either I have not seen in forever, or they literally have never met me, and I'll say, I went into something, they were doing something about voice today. I went in to meet somebody about voice. That's a whole nother thing, because I get a lot of voice strain. So long story short, she's just looking at, she said, so, well, why would you be in here? And and like she said, she didn't want to assume anything. She didn't look at my chart in the sense to go back to see I had a stroke. So I hit her with that. So literally her eyes go, looking at everything else. And I'm talking to her like this, but I'm watching her eyes are watching everything else I do. And I'm such a hand talker. So she's looking at everything. And I know in her head, and I'm so crazy. I said, in your head, you're trying to figure out what the hell you had a stroke. So she starts laughing. I said, listen, I'm going to say it for you because I'm comfortable with it. I said, but I am a survivor. I said, but the thing is, I'm also grateful that we're the level that I've come to and the level I know where I was. So again, when we go back to the topic that says, as a survivor, will you ever recover? Yes, you got to go back to say, what is your recovery? And then look at the different steps. And then as we learn every single day is we're learning something new every day. So we got to look at all these things. Let me see who this is.
And that's just it. Like, we didn't pass away. So the day we woke up from our stroke was the day we started recovering. And how far you recover is truly about if you're willing. Because if you give up on any aspect, whether it's I give up on my physical because it's too hard, and the physical part is hard, but you can't give up on that area. So it's like, if you give up mentally, if you give up spiritually, if you give up, so there's different parts to recovery, and you have to ask yourself, are you willing to put in the work in that particular area to see progress? Because you will if you put in the work.
And we can say, we can even say, I like to use myself and ourselves as an example. As Betty, we can go about how we were just have conversation about working out. You'd be like, hey, I want to get there. I want to take it to the next level. I bet all it takes for you to do is try. And guess what? She kept saying, or look at your videos that you posted. Like, I started off walking here. One day my goal is to walk down the street. One day my goal is to walk in the park. One day my goal is to walk down the stairs. I jumped on, and I'm going to just throw Betty out there. We were working out last week, and so I do a lot of things. I'm a little spastic when I do things, and I tell people all the time, forgive me, but I think you'll think about it later. You'll thank me later. As I told Betty to do something without thought, she did it. And then after we got done, she was like, I haven't done this since stroke. And I just started laughing at her like, okay. But if I would have asked her, she would have said I couldn't have did it. So that goes back to your adult. Is she recovered mentally? Because if I would have said, hey, Betty, I want you to do this, she would have been like, girl, you tripping. I just had 3 brain surgery and I can't get on the floor and do that. But I said, yo, Betty, follow me. That's what we doing. So the thing is, it's a little bit, and I'm going to say that even goes to show your community of people. That could be a whole nother level of recovery. Is your community, the faith that people have in you, or the faith, not even the faith, the thing that people are putting into you, that they're feeding into you, and they're pushing you to the next level. So look at all of that as recovery.
And I think that's just it. Like, we can learn so much from other stroke survivors. So yes, you go to physical therapy and occupational therapy and speech therapy, but then it's another thing when you watch another stroke survivor and you're like, oh, you're doing that. Oh, you do it that way. Oh, you adapt this way. When you start watching or communicating with your own community, which is brain injury and stroke survivors, you'll start learning from them on, oh, wow, we are able to do these things. We may have to adapt, but there is a way to do it.
Absolutely. So Shiloh said, I went from a hospital wheelchair walker, walking sticks. Yeah. Now I'm walking and talking, can do mentally and prepared everything. And that's what I'm saying. Different levels
of recovery.
Yes.
That is recovery.
King says, I like these comments. So King says, I notice when I get in front of people and feels like everyone's watching, my brain begins to tighten up. So that is a part that you'll begin to, I don't know how far or what the time level that you've been in, you're as a survivor, but that I can attest to that. In the beginning, it hit me that I felt like, so it's something that, because your brain is still trying to recover everything, so it's almost like an overload. So you're still trying to process that you're rehabbing, you're strengthening your mind, you're strengthening your body. So you're still trying to rehab. So say for instance, you get in a crowd of people, you're uncomfortable with speaking because you don't know what's going to come out because your brain has not quite processed and put everything together to be able to create sentences. So a lot of times that's what happens is, so it's almost like you're bombarded with all these people looking at you to say, hey, once he or she opens their mouth, is it going to make sense? And honestly, I can remember, and my friends, they'll tell you, because I'm just an open person, my friends will tell you, bruh, you took it on the phone talking to me, we didn't know what the hell you were saying in the beginning, but it was something, and you need good people around like that to tell you, like, yo, but now you look at me now, 4.5 years post, okay, and I do still have times that I'm like, yo, what's the word I'm thinking about? So that right there, King, you're thinking that people are looking at you, but in retrospect, most of the time they're not looking at you. It's your brain says, hey, if I let this out, is it going to make sense? Or if I get ready to walk, is my leg or my arm going to move the same? And then everybody's going to be looking at me. So it's a mindset thing that we got to get past and say, hey, we can ignore. And I tell people, ignore the outside crowd, especially in the beginning. I'll be like, yo, I'm about to go out. And I would just tell the people around me, hey, if I'm carrying my purse, my hand might drop. Or if I try to open the door, it's not going to do it. I had to prepare them around me to be like, yo, you got my back. So you got to block the outside things. So knowing that you can push yourself past it and that strengthen that mind to say, hey, I'm going to go outside today. I'm going to make myself do something that I haven't done before. Yes, you're going to have the nerves around you, but I'm going to say, until you're comfortable, definitely take somebody around you that you know is going to have your back, that can put you to the next level. So when that bombarded crowd comes and says, they're looking at me or staring at me, your people like, right, nobody paying you no attention. Or your people got your back to say, if you walk a little funny, or if you can't open the doors to do something, they got that for you. So it's so many different ways you can look at that.
Right. And I want to address that with King as well, like, because I'm left side affected. So if I'm in a crowd or I'm doing something that's stressful, my body wants to tighten up as well. And so one thing early in recovery is I tell myself, it's okay to go slow. It's okay to walk slow. You don't have to rush to accommodate people around you. And so that's like number one, like, it's okay to take your time and remember to breathe, because when we get tense, we normally want to hold our breath. So just like, am I breathing? It's okay to go slow and forget what it looks like. Who cares what it looks like, right? People might think I'm drunk because, like, I'll walk to my car at night without my brace. They're probably like, she's out here wobbling and whatever. Who cares what it looks like? At the end of the day, I can do something that I wasn't able to do when I had my stroke. I can drive. I can go out independently. I can do these things. So forget about what it looks like. I'm able to do it.
That right there, y'all. Listen, and we'll take anything from this. Forget about what it looks like on the outside. Forget about what the people you think the people are looking at. Listen.
Yep.
You were better than you were yesterday. You're better than when you were months ago. You're better than the day after when they said you had a stroke, when they said you had a brain injury, when they woke you up from the coma, all these things. And I'm using myself because, yes, they said after they woke me up, after I awakened from my coma, they told me I had it. And I said, yeah, bruh, that's what's not going to happen. I'm not paralyzed, not going to be living like this. And I took it to the next level. But I say those things, and I'm always going to keep telling my story because it was always my faith, the faith that I had. So we got to go back to what is your faith? What is your strong suit? What's pushing you to get up, to push yourself to the next day? Is it your children? Is it your loved one? Is somebody around you? So a lot of times we need somebody else to put on. Like Betty said, it's a great thing to have this community of survivors that we say, hey, we didn't think we could do that. Or like me, I always thought I do things the most unconventional way in the world. But guess what? I'm going to get it done.
Right.
Like the stuff I do, I always laugh like, I don't even know how the hell I did it or why I did it, but hey, I know I needed to do this and I figured it out. Or I even had a OT neuro. He said the funny thing is he was just kind of, and I would say analyzing how I move and everything. He said it's kind of funny because it seems like even probably early on in your stroke, you basically took your spasticity and tone you utilized. So everything that the doctors would say a stroke survivor wouldn't be able to do, I figured out how to do it, even though I should not have. To really explain that would be a textbook way says the way that Tracy did it was unconventional. But guess what? Tracy said, yo, I'm going to figure this out. I'm not a textbook person per se. I'm one, as you told me, I can't do it. I said, listen, I'm way too young and I still got life to live.
That's right.
I'm about to figure this out. And you got to take that to the next level. Do you want to sit back in the house and say, hey, the textbook said I can't do the textbook said if I don't start moving my body within a year, I'll never progress. Right. We deal with people, and I'm gonna say me and Betty, we're around people all day long that may be 4, 5, 6 years post-stroke. Right. And they're doing things today that they were never able to do. But if they allowed their mind to accept what other people said or the textbook said, if you don't get it back in that first year, you're not gonna get it. Yeah. So that mental barrier, which basically is a blockage, that if you accept that, it puts a blockage to your brain. So your brain is already trying to recover from the trauma we went through, but you accept things like that, it adds more stress to your brain, and it says, hey, you're gonna be stuck in that. You're never gonna recover. You're gonna be stuck like this. You're gonna always be a woe is me. You're gonna always maybe walk with the limp. You're always gonna have these issues. Yeah. But we can even look at the natural person that's never been a survivor. And say, for instance, 2 weeks ago, oh man, I jammed my knee in something. I was walking with a limp. Guess what? You're like, dang, this will be messed up for a couple weeks. Now we're 2-3 weeks past. You're walking normal. You totally forgot you jammed your knee. That recovery level, if you listen to somebody else, you listen to your mind or somebody else around you say, yo, you're going to be jacked up. You're probably not going to be able to hit no waist warmer. Anything like that. I'm just saying, I want you to look at it at all aspects. Like, how are you living your life? How are you perceiving and taking the things that people are saying to you, looking at your situation right now and say, hey, it's an ugly situation right now, so I'm never going to recover.
I want to throw in, I learned this from Dina at Taft organization. She was around neurologists and she's been around stroke survivors as well. And she's seen them well beyond the 1 year mark. And she knows that people make recovery after 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, and the thing about it is the reason why doctors always say 6 months to a year, they're trying to push you in that zone because that's what their studies, that's when they read their textbooks, that's all their textbooks tell them about, 6 months to a year, because that's what the studies show. They're not doing studies on stroke survivors 2 years, 5 years, 10 years post-stroke to see what kind of accomplishments we are still making. So never let that time zone discourage you, because I had brain bleeds for 3 years. So my year one, I couldn't recover because I kept having bleeds again and again. So when did my recovery really start? Not until year 3 after my brain surgery. So if I looked at it like, oh, I'm not going to recover, I'm over here lifting weights, walking independently, doing things, working out with Tracy, and I just did another thing that I didn't think I was able to do. So forget the timeline on it. And King was asking about a limp. I do walk with a limp. Tracy, I don't know if you do or not.
No.
Okay. And then King, you were asking about, like, can you get rid of that limp? I worked with a really good physical therapist, and he went back to the basics of walking. And I mean, just literally putting your feet next to each other, put one step forward, weight shift forward, weight shift back, weight shift forward, weight shift back. Like, you'll have to go all the way back to the beginning of what it is to walk to get rid of the limp, because you'll need to retrain how you walk. Now, if you're willing to put in the time and work and effort into that, and if that's important to you, absolutely you can do that. You just have to go back to the beginning of the movement of what walking is.
Yes, definitely. King, so I'll get more in detail. I didn't want to get more in detail of that now since we were talking about the actual recovery, but that's why I said if you send me a message, King, I can connect with you after we're off live to show you some more like firsthand demonstration of things that you could do for your own being.
Yeah. And Tracy was talking about marching in place. That, you know, how many times do we not want to go back to the basics? But these basic movements are what are going to strengthen those proper muscles that we need to be able to walk, quote, normally. So
I'm trying to go back. Somebody else has said something I was trying to see.
Okay.
Oh, okay. His King said I couldn't. I'm sorry. I think it was Cheryl. I'm trying to think. One of the ladies that said something. I didn't want to ignore your question. Okay, I don't see it, but we'll get back to
Okay.
I had a point, but I forgot. I was trying to see what the question was.
Sherelle Nicole said, I'm coming to see you one day to get a workout in. So I don't know if you saw that one.
Oh no, it was somebody. I don't know. Somebody had said something.
Okay.
But in all, oh yeah, I was gonna touch base on that. So we need our medical practitioners. We need everybody.
Yes.
Love everything you do, but I always say this is textbook knowledge. So
Yes.
I keep saying I'm going to do it, and then maybe that's the Lord saying, okay, get out there and do it. I'm going to actually I want to go back to, I don't know if it would be, I would say it would be try to connect with the hospital or something to say, hey, let's do a study today of people 4 or 5 years post, because we need to, I don't want to say we kind of need to give y'all knowledge, but we kind of do have y'all to look at a different outlook of a survivor coming out of what your textbook knowledge says. Your textbook knowledge says, based on your studies and the research that you have done, our best and most accurate recovery is going to be that first 6 months to a year. And then you said when you don't get it in that, that's all we can get for you. So because your textbook knowledge only gives that, so it's just like you look at what the one person says, hey, I only want an associate's. The next says, I want a bachelor's. The next says, hey, I want to go for a master's.
Right.
That's textbook knowledge. One says, hey, I'm going to stop here. The other one says, I'm going to go a little further. And then you become a doctorate in it. But again, it's textbook knowledge. But until you take yourself and put yourself in the shoes, and I'm not saying every medical practitioner or whatever says, hey, I want you to be listen, I don't want nobody to be a survivor, because it's a hell of a life to live.
Right.
But I don't want this community of survivors to say, hey, this is all I have. That's why I always address it. This is textbook knowledge. I'm taking myself out of 25 years of being in the health and wellness industry. And I would tell people prior to, so I've been a survivor, had my stroke in 2019. Prior to 2019, those other 20 years I had in the health and wellness industry, I couldn't tell you nothing about stroke survivors. And I wasn't going to speak on it. Yes, I did health and wellness, everything health and wellness, but this was not my level of expertise. And that's why I always go back to say the Lord has placed me in this situation, because the Lord says, hey, this is what you do, this is what you love to do. I need to introduce you into a community of those that you never paid any attention to, the community that needs a little more help, the community that needs a little more push to allow them to see that, hey, I could take you as being paralyzed on one side, from not being able to walk out to be able to do nothing, from a medical practitioner telling you you may not get up and do it. I need you to show them that you can.
Right.
I need them not only to show them that you can, but I need you to also take the knowledge that I gave you for 20 years to put it with this to say, hey, we're not doing this textbook. We're doing, and that's why I call it the unconventional, because I didn't go to school to be, which has some studies, because I do a lot of studies. I actually started to go to school for OT, but I did not complete bachelor's in OT. So it's like, okay, I know, and I'm gonna say, God saying, I know you're not about to go to school for that, but I gave you the knowledge for all this. So now I need to take your physical being and put you in their place. So now you're gonna collect all the information I've given you with all of your textbook knowledge, and now we're putting you firsthand experience to say, hey, this is how you can understand and how you can help another survivor to walk through what you went through. You went through it, you studied it, but you actually went through and you lived it, and you're still living it every single day. And like, I make a certain videos that say, yo, like literally, I could probably make a video every day of something that I'm doing now, and I'll be like, yo, I remember 2 years ago, this was a struggle. I remember this, or I remember my hand in one of the twists here. So people around me noticed it, like, brother, you just see what you're doing? Because it's something, it's a wonderful thing to see that I'm doing this and making progression every single day. But at the same time, that's what's like, okay, I see myself doing this, and then that's why I turn around and say, hey, I want to share with you, Betty. I want to share with you. I want to share with all these wonderful people around, because they might be stuck in their head, or they might be stuck in a place that says, hey, they're only reading or they're only Googling, and Google says we can only get here. When they see somebody else like ourselves and say, hey, we're 5 years post, we're not listening to what Google says. We're showing you that it's still possible. We're still possible for recovery every single day, 6, 7 years, 2 years post.
Right.
And it's just different ways that you could do. It's not one way to recovery. Recovery is a whole being. And recovery really, I honestly want to say, to me, recovery is your mindset. Yeah. So if we work on shifting your mindset, you can recover in so many different aspects. What do you, and then it takes you back to say, where do you want your recovery? Yeah. Where do you want your recovery? What areas do you want to recover in? And it's not always just physical. Right. So yes, you can recover, and recovery is possible in every area of your life. So normally go with that, because I know I don't like to do past 30 minutes. I think we just hit our button.
Yeah, I think that's great. And that is just it. What goals do you have? What is meaningful for your life? Really getting a clear vision on that, and then going after that. And if that's connecting with Tracy and getting some workouts in, she will show you that you can do beyond what you thought you could do.
Yeah, because I ain't gonna tell you to think. I can't wait to see you tomorrow, baby.
I'll be there.
All right, we love y'all, and if you please send me a message if y'all need any more questions or detail. But we're about to end this, and I'll catch you next week. Okay. All right.
Take care.